civilization is very different. In fact, it's in competition with Anglo-American civilization, okay? So now let's go over to Russia and discuss the Russian system. So the Russian system is an autocracy. And again, there are strengths and weaknesses to any political system. In an autocracy, if one man is in charge, that allows for long-term planning, that allows for direction, that allows for strategy, okay? But the problem with autocracy is that if this man were to die, you would have a succession crisis. So the American strategy to defeat Russia is not to destroy the country, because you cannot do that. Russia has nuclear weapons. The strategy is to make Putin so unpopular that the elite rise up against Putin and create a succession crisis. Okay? Basically to outlast Putin, to destroy his legitimacy. All right, the grand strategy for Russia is something called the Third Rome strategy. All right, I'll discuss this more later on. But the idea of a Third Rome is that Russia is the heir to the Roman Empire. Okay, the first Rome is Rome, second Rome is Constantinople, and the third Rome is Moscow. And there shall be no fourth Rome, meaning that once Moscow achieves the third Rome, that's the end of history. And the idea of the third Rome is for Russia to unify all religious traditions together to defeat the Antichrist system, which is Western, liberal, individual, consumer democracy. Okay? The vectors, the attack vectors for Russia's grand strategy are, of course, Orthodox religion, the religion, then you have the geography of Russia. So Russia encompasses all of Eurasia. And then, of course, you have the artillery. So Russia is basically the world's best land army, and we're seeing that in Ukraine. Okay, and the pawns are soldiers. In other words, Russia is not afraid to lose soldiers on the battlefield. Okay? All right, so this is Russia's Third Rome strategy, okay? So Moscow is the center of Third Rome, and as you can see, Russia spreads throughout Europe and throughout Asia. And what Russia is trying to do is it's trying to unite the different religious traditions. So it's trying to unite Greek Orthodoxy with even Orthodoxy. It's trying to work with the Catholic Church, okay? It's trying to work with Israel as well, because Israel is also a religious tradition. Iran is a very important part of this Third Rome strategy. Okay, Iran is a very important partner of Moscow. And in the future, India could also be a partner as well, because India is Hindu, okay? But the great enemy, the enemy that must be destroyed, is the Anglo-American Empire, so the UK and North America. And the idea is to cause them to go into civil war. And the theory is that because the Anglo-American Empire is so focused on individual achievement, you can actually force them into a civil war by exploiting the selfishness, the egotism of the people, okay? Basically the material greed of their people. So what underpins Moscow's Third Rome strategy are certain texts. Okay? So you have Virgil's Aeneid, which focuses on the importance of duty, okay? Duty. Then you have St. Augustine's Confessions. And in his book, he argues that we humans are proud, okay? But whereas John Milton says pride is a good thing, but it allows us to achieve godhood, St. Augustine says that pride is evil, because pride moves us away from God. It makes us think we're better than God, so it moves us to Satan. Therefore, our life should be a journey into defeating our ego, our selfishness, and our pride, and embracing God, okay? That's something that Dostoevsky talks about in his book, Crime and Punishment. So in the book, Crime and Punishment, the protagonist wants to become a superhuman. He wants to prove he's better than everyone else. And so to do that, he decides to commit murder, okay? He wants to show himself and to others that he is beyond morality, that he is a god. He's not constrained by emotions. And so he kills his landlady, but then afterwards, he feels tremendous regret for what he did. And what saves him is his love for a woman, okay? He submits himself to the power of love. He submits himself to the power of God. And that's what redeems him in the end, okay? So the argument here is that your belief in your own possibility of achieving godhood can only lead you to your own doom, okay? What will save you, what will redeem you, is to omit your mortality, omit your fallibility, and to seek help from those around you and from God, okay? All right, so this is something that Tolstoy talks also about in his book, Anna Karenina, okay? So we're gonna read a passage from Anna Karenina. And Anna Karenina is a woman who's obsessed with finding love. And she believes that through passion, through devotion, I can find true love and therefore complete myself. Okay, so she has an affair with a man named Count Vronsky. And in the beginning, it's a wonderful thing. It brings her tremendous happiness. She leaves her husband. She leaves her son. But eventually, what she discovers is that this lust for a man, in order to fill the void in her heart, makes her even more empty, and she feels her life becomes more and more pointless, okay? So she decides to kill herself. But before she kills herself, she has this internal monologue with herself, okay? And this is what she says. My love keeps growing more passionate and more egoistic, more selfish, more proud, while his is waning, and that's why we're drifting apart, okay? So she demands Count Vronsky love her as much as she loves him. The problem is that she doesn't recognize that this love is not about love, it's about control, okay? She wants him to be as devoted to her as she is to him. Okay, she wants to control him, and he rebels against this control. Okay? And so he starts to drift away because he wants to maintain his freedom. See what I'm musing? And there's no help for it. He is everything for me. I want him more and more to give himself up to me entirely. Okay, so she wants him to surrender himself completely to her. She wants to become God, and she wants to make him the servant, okay? This is not about love, it's about power. And he wants more and more to get away from me. We walk to meet each other up to the time of our love, and then we have been irresponsibly drifting in different directions, and there's no altering that. He tells me I'm insanely jealous, and I have told myself that I am insanely jealous, but it's not true. I'm not jealous, but I'm unsatisfied. Okay? But she opened her lips and shifted her place in the carriage in the excitement, aroused by the thought that suddenly struck her. If I could be anything but a mistress, passionately caring for nothing but his caresses, but I can't and I don't care to be anything else. And by the desire, I arouse aversion in him, and he arouses fury in me, and it cannot be different. Don't I know that he wouldn't deceive me, that he has no schemes about Princess Karenina, that he's not in love with Kitty, that he won't desert me? I know all that, but it makes it no better for me. If outliving me from duty, he'll be good and kind to me. Without what I want, that's 1,000 times worse than unkindness. That's hell. And that's just how it is. For a long while now, he hasn't loved me. And where love ends, hate begins. I don't know these streets at all. Hills, it seems, and still houses. Okay, and so she's going to go kill herself because she recognizes that she's been living a lie. She thought that if I truly love him, then he will love me back. She wants to become God. And what she doesn't recognize is that as a human, she has an ego. And so she thinks she's loving Count Vronsky unconditionally, but in fact, what she's trying to do is control him and have him obey her unconditionally. Okay, that's the difference between God and human. Where God is all-knowing, all-forgiving, all-generous, all-love. But a human can't do that. And when a human tries to become a God, a human can only become a tyrant. Okay? And that's a lesson from Tolstoy. Don't think you can become God. You can only destroy yourself as well as others around you. And so what Tolstoy will do is that he will contrast Anna Karenina with a man named Levin, okay? And Levin is different. Levin, rather than try to seek happiness in passion, he just submits himself to duty and to tradition. He marries a woman he loves, and then he spends all his time being responsible to her, as well as to himself, as well as to the household. He just does what he's supposed to do. And by doing that, by submitting his freedom, by submitting himself to duty and tradition, he makes himself truly happy. Okay? So really, the argument between America and Russia is a different understanding of the story of Adam and Eve. For the Americans, they believe that Eve's disobedience is a good thing because it's what leads to progress. It's what leads to achievement. The Americans believe that godhood is possible and it's a good thing. The Russians are different. They believe that Eve disobeyed because she was too proud and she does not recognize the limitations of her humanity. And perfection is not possible. Progress is not possible. What is good is recognizing our limitations and submitting ourselves to the power of God. Okay? So that's why Russia and America cannot reconcile, because not only do they have geopolitical differences, but fundamentally the way they perceive the world is different. And they're fighting to impose their own reality on others. Okay?